Hello, everybody. Welcome to Casual Relief. I'm Michael Matalavage, and today we're going to be talking about the Jets. First off, Adam Gase. I do not have enough words to describe this man, but if a few of them I would choose would be arrogant, buffoonish, and just disrespectful. Every Jets fan out there right now wants him gone. Okay? It's not a surprise. It's not a shock. He's been absolutely dreadful. His play calling is just head-scratching. Just take a look on Jets Twitter anytime you want. You have guys like Damian Woody, Dan Orlovsky. These guys, you can see they know what they're talking about, at least in some respect. They might not be head coach candidates, but they're calling out lack of motions. Inside handoffs on plays where you need to get chunk yardage. Things that just really make your head scratch. You don't understand it. The arrogance comes in when reporters go to question them about it, and he shrugs it off like it's nothing. Like he doesn't need to answer it. It's a stupid question. That segues me into my next rant topic, Le'Veon Bell's release from the Jets. It's bad enough that we try to trade somebody that we gave a huge contract to after only 19 months. He's never been successful here. It's a shame. It's absolutely heartbreaking to all the Jets fans. Part of that's on Bell. Part of it is on Adam Gase. Gase didn't even give him a shot to be successful here. It's mind-blowing, the fact that you have a talented player and you can't adjust for him in the slightest. And then when asked about this, because they diminished his value so much, they went from giving him the second highest contract in the NFL for a running back history, right? Like it's the second largest running back contract in NFL history, to diminishing his value so low, they couldn't get anyone to trade for him. They said they would take on a larger part of his salary, and still nobody wanted him. Update, he signed with the Chiefs. Congratulations to him on a one-year deal, I think for $1 million. So hopefully he'll go out there and win a championship. But the fact that, when reporters, I think it was Rich Cimey from ESPN asked Adam Gase earlier today, there's perception and the fans feel like you misused Le'Veon Bell, that led to his release. His answer was, it's irrelevant. Well, no, it's not. That's arrogance. It's not irrelevant. Because how does it look to the rest of the players that you have here that you couldn't even use your most talented player on the roster? It's not irrelevant. When free agents are going to look to come here in the future years, when we're trying to rebuild this organization, and they're going to look at this and how horribly it turned out and how arrogant you were this entire time. It makes you look like a buffoon. It makes us look like buffoons for supporting you. I feel like a buffoon for wearing this jersey. So now with that out of the way, what we're going to do is we're going to break down the rest of the season. And in the rest of the show, we're going to talk about some topics like, do I trust Joe Douglas? What do I think Sam Darnold's future is with the Jets and then the NFL in general? And is a big question, so stay tuned for this. Is this what had to happen to the Jets? It's something that we kind of have to think about. We have to kind of just accept the reality. So we're going to talk about those, so make sure you stay tuned for the rest of the episode. Now, looking at the rest of the Jets schedule, we're 0-5. We have the Dolphins, the Bills, the Chiefs, Patriots, Chargers, Dolphins again, Raiders, Seahawks, Rams, Browns, Patriots to finish the season. You tell me where we're getting a win in there. Because I don't see it. Maybe one of the Dolphins games if we get lucky. But it's not even like we're playing the Dolphins on the last game of the year where they might, this year they might have actually made the playoffs already and be starting like a rookie or something like that. Or maybe they put Tua in for that last game and he doesn't do as well. Now, I'm going to go down each game and talk about some highlights, I think. But it's just looking at this, I know right now we're not slotted to get the number one pick because there's other teams that have a harder strength of schedule. Like I think the Giants technically have a harder strength of schedule and maybe the Falcons as well. But that being said, looking at what we put on the field, the product that Johnson & Johnson puts out on this field for us, and looking at our upcoming opponents, There is no way we're going to get a win this year. I don't see it at all. Joe Douglas has punted on this year. We have to accept that. We have to accept that. So it's going to be a brutal year. Going through the Jets' remaining schedule from October through November, like I said, Dolphins right now they're 2-3 as of recording date on Friday, October 16th. They're 2-3. Fitzmagic has been looking absolutely baller lately, keeping Tua on the bench, on the sideline, doing a really good job so far. 330 yards and 3 touchdowns with a 154 passer rating in his last game. He's coming out hot. He's looked really good. I think they beat the 49ers. They came from behind. They've had some pretty decent wins. Even Jordan Jenkins said it earlier in the week, said that they got to prepare for Miami because if they don't, it could get really ugly. It's the truth, and I think it's going to get real ugly. So, I mean, Jets, hopefully we see some fight from them, but after the release of Le'Veon Bell and hearing how shocked their teammates were, I don't see them wanting to fight for this coaching staff. Then we see the Bills the next week after that. That's our second meeting between the Bills and the Jets. Obviously, we lost the first because we haven't won a game. The Bills were just handed their first loss against the Titans on, I believe, was it Thursday night or Tuesday night football. Josh Allen looked okay in that game. I mean, they held him 263 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. But the big number I want to circle there is that they limited him to 18 rushing yards. They kept him contained. They didn't allow him to use his legs too much to impact the game. And by making him really, stay behind the line of scrimmage and not be bailed out, he made some bad decisions and threw some interceptions. But again, they looked extremely formidable. Obviously that wasn't a good game for them, but I still see them ending the season in a decent area, pushing for the playoffs at least, if not, outright locking it up. Then we have the reigning Super Bowl champs, the Chiefs, who are also 4-1, and they just signed Le'Veon Bell, as I mentioned earlier. So this is going to be a revenge game for Le'Veon Bell. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, on the year, he's got 13 touchdowns to 1 interception, just absolutely dialed in. 64% completion rating. You would like to see that a little higher, but they've been getting a lot of use out of that rookie running back, Edwards-Helaire, who's been just dominant. I mean, if you see anything, he takes a run that looks like it should be for 3 yards and busted for 7, 8, sometimes even 20 for a touchdown. He's really given them the ability to ease off the airmail offense. Now they have picked it up at times and stuff like that, and like they've had some close games, but the product they put on the field is just so much better than us. That's the thing, is that even on a bad day for the Chiefs, which they're not gonna have because Le'Veon Bell's gonna be on that squad, and because he's such a good teammate and a locker room guy, they're gonna be fighting for him. It's gonna be an absolute bloodbath. And you're going to see a lot of Jets fans rooting against the Jets that day. How sad is that? You have a fan base that roots against your team because you chased a player away. I mean, if I'm the owner of the team, I have to be sick to my stomach. You have NFL commercials making fun of your fan base. I don't understand how you can just... I don't understand how they can have any pride in themselves right now as the owners. Next game, we have the Patriots, who are 2-2 right now. The big headline recently is that Cam Newton just got COVID. He recently returned. Stephon Gilmore had COVID, along with 2 or 3 other players. And then I believe, as of recording earlier today, they shut down their facility again because they had more problems with COVID testing. So what I would say with that is that you got to... Who knows when we're going to be playing them. We've already had some games juggled around. The Dolphin game got moved up because of COVID issues. So that Patriots game is a game to keep an eye on. It might get pushed back to later in the season, or if not, maybe that's how we get our first win, a COVID forfeit. I didn't even think of that. That's probably the only way we win this game, if any, is if one of the teams comes down with a really horrific COVID issue and has to forfeit the game. So yeah, that's possible. They're 2-0 at home, and I believe the Jets are actually going to be home at this game for the Patriots. So the first time they meet, I mean, which bodes well for the Jets in the slightest. That means that they do get to go, like they do have a better chance as the Patriots are 0-2 on the road right now. But still, the Patriots have just a long-standing tradition of beating the Jets almost every time. After that, we play the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 1-4, but probably the most impressive 1-4 team out there right now. After Tyrod Taylor was unfortunately had his lung punctured by team doctors. He's been out, and he's now been replaced by the rookie Justin Herbert, who's been absolutely lighting it up. He's 0-4 as a starter, but with that being said, he's looked really impressive. I think everybody can agree that he's looked calm. He's taking shots downfield. He looks comfortable in the pocket, commanding the offense. 9 touchdowns to 3 interceptions with a 69% completion rating. Like I said, 0-4, but the census around the league and sports talk and everybody who's been watching any of the Chargers games, is impressed with what this kid's done. I mean, he almost went down and beat the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. They were extremely close there. I think they recently just lost to the Saints, I believe. I'll have to double check that, but I believe it was the Saints where they came storming back after halftime. So that's a game where if the Chargers haven't righted the ship by then, I believe I think Greg Williams sends a lot of pressure, and the receiving weapons for the Chargers are too much for the Jets secondary to handle, and they're just going to get exposed all day and get taken apart. And Herbert's going to have a really great day. Then we face the Dolphins again to round out November. This time we're going to be at home against the Dolphins. I see 2 scenarios, and neither one is really great for us. Either Fitzmagic has still, through October and November, is still playing lights out, playing really well, competitive football, either at or above 500 and still playing, so they're on a roll, they're pretty hot. Or he's gone cold either after playing us or during playing us, he doesn't play well. And at some point between our 2 games, Tua gets put in. They bring the rookie in. I think Tua is going to light it up when he comes in. I think it's going to be a burst of energy whenever it does happen, especially if Fitzmagic wears off. So I don't think either scenario is great for us. Now, the good side of that is either we might get Fitzmagic as he cools down, or we might get Tua, not really ready yet, or maybe not having a great first game. Those are both possibilities, but with our Jets' luck, which every Jet fan knows about, it's much more likely that either Fitzmagic's on fire or Tua comes out and has an explosive first game, something like Baker Mayfield did against us 2 years ago. Now looking at the schedule for December through January, we have 5 games. We play the Raiders, first Seahawks, Rams, Browns, Patriots. Raiders have looked really good this year. They've had some really impressive wins. They're 3-2. They beat the Panthers, the Saints, and the Chiefs. Their 2 losses are to the Patriots and the Bills. Patriots, like we said, with Cam Newton, they've looked really solid, really formidable, like a really new team with an exciting new offense, a lot of run-pass options. And the Bills have looked really good so far. So I think those 2 losses are something that you can almost not excuse, but you take into account that who they're losing to, and just looking at how they beat the Panthers, who have really showed a lot of people wrong. Teddy Bridgewater playing really well out there, even without Christian McCaffrey. Robbie Anderson revitalizing his career instead of just being a deep threat, being like a catch and run guy. And Matt Rule's offense has looked amazing. So that win against them is pretty impressive. They beat the Saints. They made Drew Brees look really bad, where people were questioning whether there's some other people named Jameis Winston should be getting a shot in there, which kind of those rumors have kind of subsided now after the last win for the Saints. And then you have the Chiefs, who they beat, who handed them their first loss last week, making the Chiefs 4-1. The Chiefs were 4-0 coming into that game. A really impressive game from Derek Carr. The rookies, Josh Adams and Josh Jacobs, both played really great games. Waller, their tight end, has looked great. Ruggs has looked amazing. They looked like a really cohesive unit, and they looked like they had some really great line play. I think that's a game where Gruden, maybe they played down to their competition. That's something that the Raiders have done in the past, but I don't see them losing this game. I think I think it would be a good test for our O-line and D-line, but I think they just have a lot of weapons and just too much fight for the Jets. I don't think the Jets are ready for that. Moving on to the Seahawks game. Seahawks are currently 5-0, having an incredible year. Russell Wilson's playing like an MVP candidate. Through 5 weeks, he's got over 1,500 passing yards. He's got 19 touchdowns for 3 interceptions with a passer rating of 129.8. Completion percentage of 73%. He's looked like an MVP candidate, like more so than ever, I think. He looks like the best quarterback in football right now. I know people would say Aaron Rodgers. He's 5-0. They have won games. They looked so good. Just impressive. DK Metcalf has established himself, and every team like the Jets, who needed a wide receiver and passed on him and let him drop so far down, looks so bad right now because he is putting on a show. His speed, his size, it's all translating and it's coming into focus, and he has Russell Wilson to drop him dimes. Things are working out for them. I know DK had that one play on the goal line where he kind of walked and he got punched out and he fumbled it. Forget that. Because know why he walked into the end zone? Because he makes that play 4 times a game. They have been so dominant and so good so far, just so impressive, that this is a game that's over before it even begins. Moving on to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the Rams are a curious case because we aren't sure how good the Rams are. They're 4-1, so on paper they look really, really good. But all their wins come from the NFC East. Cowboys, Washington Football Team, Philadelphia Eagles, New York Giants. That's not a good division. I mean, just to put it in the most basic of terms, the NFC East is by far the most depleted, like, embarrassing league, to the point where a lot of people feel that whoever wins from the NFC East shouldn't go to the playoffs. They shouldn't represent the playoffs, or at least get home field advantage, because they don't have the wins. Cowboys are in first right now at 2-3. Eagles are in second at 1-3-1. Washington Football Team at 1-4, and then 0-5. 2-3 is the bottom of almost every other division, with a few exceptions. So are the Rams really good, or have they just had the easiest schedule up until this point? Obviously, we're going to learn a few more things, before we get them to play them there. But right now, they're a team that we might not be shocked to see them at 6-4 by the time they get there, like 4-6 by the time we get to us. Maybe they go on a slide, they play some hard teams. It's one of those games where right now we don't know what the Rams are, but at the same time, looking at a Sean McVay ran offense, their running back Henderson Jr. has been very solid. Goff has looked much better. I don't see the Jets being able to compete with them, even though the Giants were able to compete with them a little bit. It was a tough game. So maybe the Rams played down to our level again. But with that being said, the Jets don't seem to want to compete. They think it's the back of everyone's mind that they don't want to win. So I don't see them winning this game. Cleveland Browns, who are 4-1, having a good year. They have what's probably easily the best running back duo in the league right now with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, both top 15 in rushing yards on the year. I think at 9 and 11, respectively, Hunt and Chubb. But the real question is Baker Mayfield. He's been getting a lot of flack this year, not playing great, under 1,000 passing yards in the season, 9 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, only throwing less than 62% completion rating. People are worried about him. Now he's started to turn around. He's had a couple better games. But I think the question by this time will be, have the Jets found a way to be that good run-stopping defense like they were last year and make Baker Mayfield beat him with his arm, which I'm sure he will because everyone steps up against the Jets. They have weapons like Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry who are just so good. I don't think the Jets will be able to lock those guys down. Like we saw last year, Odell Beckham take one of the first plays of the game, a slant across the middle, take it like 60 yards for a touchdown. Stuff like that's going to happen to the Jets defense because I think they want that number 1 overall pick. I really do. And if not that, they want to be second. They want to be 1 or 2. They don't want to win a lot of games. This is a rebuilding. And final game of the year against the Patriots. 2-2. Like I said earlier, they're 2-2 right now, but we're not sure what they are because of COVID. Things keep getting moved around and pushed back. So their record might be worse than it is. So things are a lot of fluctuating right now. Just a little back history with the Patriots. Bill Belichick is 94-31 against the rest of the AFC East. And I bet you out of those 31 losses, very few of them are against the Jets. He is extremely talented at coaching against the AFC East, against the Jets, scheming for us, especially when we're predictable with like Adam Gase's offense where he kind of just tells you what he's going to do. Yeah, so I mean, this game, unless it's a COVID thing where they can't make it up because things get pushed back and they have COVID and they can't make the game up and they have to forfeit it, maybe we get a win that way. Maybe they go on a run and they already have the season locked up and so they don't play, like Stidham might start. But even in that situation, I don't think Belichick probably would let us beat him if we're winless in Foxborough. So I don't see, unless they forfeit the game, I don't see them being able to just let us win. I don't think that'll happen. I don't think we'd have the stones to take it unless something changes very drastically before the year ends. Move on to our first topic of the day that I talked about earlier is, do I trust Joe Douglas? It's a hard answer for me, honestly. It's hard for me to answer. I do. I do still trust Joe Douglas. I really do. At least I really want to. But with that being said, it's very clear that this season is not what he cares about. I mean, for all that talk that he mentioned about how this team had fighters on it and they wanted to prove that last 8 games of the season were a fluke last year, they went 6-2. That was all bull. I mean, maybe he had that hope that like, hey, maybe this team will show me some awesome fight. But I think he knew from the beginning that he was going to remake this team. He was going to rebuild it as he saw fit. McCagnon, I mean, just his history of draft picks didn't work out. So I'm sure he came in not trusting them already. And we can see that with every move McCagnon's made is up for sale. Bell cut on the trading block. Sam Darnold's apparently been at least shopped around or like has had discussions about that. Obviously, I said Le'Veon Bell earlier. Quinnen Williams, another guy who they've been taking phone calls on. Now I think they want to keep Quinnen because he's really starting to show stuff. But if they get a package like they got at the end of last year, that was almost too. They almost got traded at the end of They almost got traded last year because there were some packages that came in from other teams that were just too good to turn down. That happens again. I don't know if we keep him. Joe Douglas isn't tied to any of these guys. Now, his draft record hasn't been so great so far. I mean, yes, he crushed it, Mekhi Becton. And Denzel Mims, we're still waiting to see. He's been injured. Jabari Zuniga, injured. It feels like he got away with an okay draft class because of Mekhi Becton. So hopefully these guys get healthy and it was because of COVID and things like that. And it's not a thing going forward. Trying to put myself in the perspective of Joe Douglas and why I should trust him, I'm trying to think of the Jets as a house. And if you're trying to renovate that house and everything needs to be everything needs to be replaced, you have holes everywhere, you have issues everywhere, is it really easier? Not easier, but is it really worth it to go through and gut the floor, replace the floor, now gut the walls, replace the walls, trying to fix everything but still staying in the framework of the house that's already there, that's already crumbling? So as soon as you fix something, I'll move on to something else. Or is it better and just more, almost easy, not easier, but just makes more sense to just demolish everything that's there, the things falling apart, and create a new blueprint for exactly how you want it to be. Go and get the exact tools you need. Don't try to make do with what you have. Formulate a plan, get the tools for that plan, get the materials for that plan, execute that plan. I think that's what Joe Douglas is doing. He looked around at a crumbling shack, and instead of saying, oh, well, we got a really fancy floor in Sam Darnold, I think we'll just keep going around this. I think you realize that that's not enough. That's not enough, which is also part of the reason why I don't know if they should take Trevor Lawrence number 1 overall, because we have so many issues. But with the moves he's already been making, trading away a few guys already, acquiring a lot of draft picks already, shopping apparently Jamison Crowder, who's having a really great year so far. I think he just had his third 100-yard plus game. And also Brian Poole, who's been graded out as a really high slot cornerback in the last few years, one of the top in the league. Those guys should both get some pretty decent compensation. I think it's obvious that he wants to save that number 1 overall pick for the player, hopefully Trevor Lawrence if we get it, and have enough picks to just rebuild this roster and have one of the largest Jets rookie classes coming in recent memory. I don't think this team will look at all the same. That's why, a lot of YouTubers, I can shout out Matt O'Leary, some guys like that, you're saying boycott the merch, don't buy any merch, the Jets aren't worth it. And I agree. It's not, don't give them your money. They don't want to put a product out there for us. But even more than that is that guys like Sam Darnold, who I'm wearing right now, Le'Veon Bell is already gone. Jamal Adams already gone. Quinnen Williams might be gone. Besides for the O-line, and even some of those guys might be gone, I don't expect a lot of the players to be back next year. I expect to see almost an entirely new team, which really breaks my heart. I mean, these guys have fought hard for a while, but it's rough, but it's what we got to do, I guess. And I think this is me putting my head, inside what Joe Douglas' position is and what he probably is thinking. With that being said, we move on to Sam Darnold's future with the Jets and in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence. And who knows, maybe there's other quarterbacks out there that they like a lot. Where they stack up next to Sam Darnold, I'm not entirely sure. But I think the allure of Trevor Lawrence is so high that it's really, really hard to say no to. And also that rookie deal is something that, it really helps your team build for the future. So as much as I want them to keep Sam, I don't think they will. Now, will Sam be moved before the trade deadline in the offseason? No, I don't think so. I think because they want Trevor Lawrence so badly, they got to hold on to Sam Darnold until at least the draft order is locked in. Or the night of the draft, maybe. Something where they are sure they're getting that number one pick and they're sure it's going to be Trevor Lawrence, whether he's already declared or they've kind of done the Joe Burrow thing where they've talked to him already and kind of told him, and they've kind of started going over playbooks and everything's already been in the works. Because getting rid of Darnold, not knowing if you're going to have that number one pick, hey, maybe get rid of Darnold and some reason Joe Flacco begins to ball out. You win a few games. Well, Michael P. Ryan has a great year. Something weird happens. We win three games, and now we're out of the top 2, 3, 4 picks. We're back down to 5. Who knows? But that's too big of a risk to take, especially from somebody like Joe Douglas, who's been shown to really try and play the safe game, build from foundation, not overspend, try to be very almost conservative in these early stages with the Jets. Now, as a Jet fan, this really it hurts. I mean, I think all Jets fans were hurt when we saw Le'Veon Bell get released and nothing from Adam Gase. We're hurt every weekend when they go out there and play. But the question, it's a hard question, and I think franchises have to ask this sometimes. Just, did this have to happen to us? Is this something that was necessary, that we needed? I'm going to say yes. Fully and honestly, yes. Since 2010, which was the last year the Jets made the playoffs, they have been middle of the road at best. They had one standout year in Bowles' first year, which they went 10-6. I'm looking at it right now on my screen. But besides that, their best season was 8-8. They were between 4-12 and 8-8, and now they're 0-5. Who does that sound like? Someone like the Lions, or like one of these teams like the Buccaneers, one of these teams that always seems to win just a few games, so they're not drafting first or second, and they're always they're never bad enough to really turn it around and get great players, or if the great players don't work out, but they're never good enough to make the playoffs. They're just always and they start off really bad and then they win a few games and it makes you feel better, but it doesn't help your draft stock. This team has been brutal. The Jets have finished in the bottom half of their league 7 times since 2010. Even they had mediocre records, and they were lucky enough to be able to get a few top 5 picks. Jamal Adams, traded. Leonard Williams, traded to the Giants. Quinnen Williams, who's reportedly on the trade block. Or not trade block, but they're taking phone calls actively. Sam Darnold, who's probably going to be gone by the end of the year. This team was a team that we were told had pieces, but all they needed was a quarterback. Then they go and they get the young quarterback, and nothing changed. From the year that Bowles was there, and their quarterback was Josh McCown, they were 5-11. Sam Darnold's rookie year, 4-12. Then Adam Gase takes over, and they were 7-9. So we started to see an uptick, and we think, it's great. And then all of a sudden, just this Joe Douglas comes in, and Mike McCagnon made a bunch of terrible moves with guys who didn't work out, and just the roster just fell apart apparently from last year to this year. Chris Herndon forgot how to catch a football. It just seems like this team finally just did it for us. They did it for us. And hopefully this will be the bottom, and we can quickly rebound. And with a hard descent, we can get a brand new coach with a allure of a number 1 pick and a smart GM with a lot of draft capital and a brand new team, and just have a quick rebound. Because, in my opinion, this is probably what Joe Douglas had to do and had the stones that nobody else has had the ability to do since we've had Rex Ryan in. I mean, since we've been to the playoffs. We've had GMs who tried to finagle, like put band-aids on things and like do like a half rebuild and like keep some pieces, get rid of some guys, make things work to be competitive while still trying to get more draft people and to build for the future. Maybe Joe Douglas was just the first one to say, you know what, screw it, full rebuild, no more half-assing it, I'm done with it. So maybe as Jets fans, you know, it sucks in the season, but at the end of the year, in the future and looking back on it, it's something that we're going to say is like the start of a new era. And it's something that we are going to be so thankful that Joe Douglas did for us. But right now, it's absolutely brutal. So if you're a Jets fan out there, just keep your head held high. You know, hopefully brighter days are coming in the future. And just, I mean, we all know Adam Gase doesn't represent us as fans. And we just got to do our best. And then hopefully we'll have a more competitive team next year. And we can put these dark days behind us. But you know what? We got to take flight. And before you take flight, you got to build speed on that runway. So, Jets fans, I hope you're staying with us out there and doing well. Thank you all for listening. This has been Casual Relief. I'm your host, Michael Matalavich. Thank you all for listening.